All right, welcome back to Painting Trees. This is Painting Trees number 4. So I have another worksheet to go with this one. It looks pretty similar to last one, but just a little different. As always, first thing we're gonna do, write your name on the top so we know whose is whose. Mine says Teacher Copy. Don't forget to put your class coat on. Now we need to get our supplies. I have paint. I am using blue paint. It doesn't matter what color you use. It's really helpful if you reuse some old paint, even if it's like brown or something, so that we don't end up wasting paint or always needing to take new paint. I have my paper towel for when I need to wash and dry my brush. I have my water cup with just a tiny bit of water in there for cleaning. And I'm going to need my paintbrushes and maybe a pencil. So paintbrushes I'm using. We are going to be doing more thick to thin lines like we've learned and used in painting 1, 2, and 3. So I have my detail brush, my small round brush. Okay. Of that size, nice rounded top. Going to be easier to make those thick to thin lines for me. You use whatever small brush is good for you. Then we do need another brush that we haven't used. So you need a messy brush. Do not grab a fan brush that we used in Painting Trees number 2. Do not grab one of these. You are actually looking for one of these older brushes, or what oftentimes we think of as like the not so good brushes. So that means like these little plastic ones, right, that you usually get for free with like watercolors, these are actually really good because these bristles go all over. We like that texture, okay, kind of rough, kind of messy. We want that. Doesn't always mean bigger, but sometimes you need these bigger ones, right? This is an older brush. It's pretty rough to the touch. Somebody let a little bit of paint dry in it at one point. If it's not too bad, I'll keep these brushes because we can use them for making these trees. Bristles kind of all over, a little more poofy. This one's a little on the soft side, so I don't think I'm going to use this one, but it might work well. Okay, again, kind of all over the place, a little bit messier. And this one here, this one must have had paint dry in it at some point and somebody like gave it a little haircut to take it out. So I'm going to keep this one too. So I think I'm going to try these ones for me today. But you'll try a bunch and you'll probably find one that you really like. So set those off to the side for now. So we are doing Painting Trees number 4. So this says add leaves to your deciduous tree. The ones that we painted in number 3, we learned that deciduous trees are trees that lose their leaves in the winter. By using a messy brush, these ones here, to tap circles around the end of your branches, then fill in the middle. So very first step, we have to do exactly what we did on Painting Trees 3, and we have to paint in our Y-shaped branches. So I'm going to jump in and do that. If you don't know how to do this, go back, watch Painting Trees 3. I walk you through all of that. Ooh, I did not load up my brush well. Look at how scratchy that is. So load it up with a bit more paint. Let's try again. So thick. I'm not going to let it go to thin very much. And I want this to be a thicker tree trunk. So now, though, we need to make our Ys. So thick to thin. Thick to thin. I have all my little side branches here. So thick to thin. I'm going to go a little quicker through this part so you guys don't have to watch me do all this. So I know that I could do better if I slowed down and I took my time. And anytime that you guys watch me paint these videos, or like do these videos painting or really doing any art thing, remember, some of you may catch on right away. Some of you, it may take some practice, and that's okay. I have been doing this for a very, very, very long time. I have painted so many trees and I've done this exact sheet so many times. So there is my thick to thin lines. Add a little bit of thickness to my tree trunk here. Okay. Now, my paintbrush, I don't want the paint drying on it. I am done with this for now. So it goes into my water cup. I am scraping it on the bottom to wash it out. drying it on the side of the cup, and I'm gonna dry it and put it on my paper towel. When I dry it, I always check to make sure my paint is clean, or my water's clean, that there's no paint in it, because otherwise my paintbrush isn't washed enough. Now, to the messy brush. I think I'm gonna try this one. I don't use these ones very often, so I think I want to try it. So we need to load up our brush with paint, and if you were doing like a daytime tree, you would have painted what I currently have in, what I currently have in blue. I would have painted that in brown, and then I would do this part in green after my brown dried. If you're doing like a silhouette, so like it's like a pretty sunset with like shadowy trees in the front, you would probably do this in all black or all dark purple. We're doing this in all blue just for the practice of painting these trees. So you can see these dotted line circles around the end of each of my branches. Do you see how that's around the end of each of those? So it's a circle around the end of the letter Y, end of the letter Y. This one didn't become a letter Y. It's just one branch, but there's a circle around it. Okay, so the ends of all the branches have those circles. I'm going to take my brush. I am going to load up the end of it. So I'm going to turn this to the side so you can see. So I'm actually just tapping it into the paint. So it's just the end. And then I'm actually going to go in the middle, and kind of like we did with the fan brush, I'm going to tap, 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 tap until it starts to look more scratchy. Okay, so I don't want globs of paint. I want scratchy. You're going to be going back to get paint really often because we want barely any paint on our paintbrush. I don't think you'll be able to see this because it's so dark, but there's hardly anything on there. It's not goopy at all. Now, I am going to straight up and down with my paintbrush, so it might be kind of hard for you guys to see, but it's compared to the paper, it's going to be straight up and down. And I'm going to tap, 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 and I'm letting those bristles of the brush kind of fan out. Okay, so tapped in a circle. I was only able to get through one circle before I need to load up again. So load up your paint, tap some of it off, tap, 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 in a circle. Ooh, that one I almost didn't even make it through the whole thing. Grab more paint, tap in a circle, more paint. And do you see how this brush is making it super, super messy? We want that. We want that texture. That's what we're looking for. If you're not getting that texture, either you don't have a messy enough brush or you have too much paint. So I tapped around my circles. Now, the next step, it says, then fill in the middle. So first of all, I need to fill in the middle of my actual circles. So like, do you see there's a gap here? I'm gonna add a little bit there, a little bit there, a little bit there. Notice I'm still tapping when I do this. Now, this looks a little weird because usually there's some leaves in here. I do not want to paint this solid. Do you see how there's some white coming through here? I want that white. When you look at a tree and it's the sun's behind it, you can see that light coming through the tree. That's what we want here. If we fill that in, that's when it starts to look unnatural. So, got my paint, tapped it off. Now I'm gonna just tap, 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 tap in the middle here. Okay, see how I left some white? That's good. There's my tree. My tree's kind of a perfect little tree. Okay. Rinse off my paintbrush. I'm gonna dry it. Okay, so now after you follow my lines, you're gonna do one on your own. If you need to draw your own lines, you're gonna do this. You're gonna draw. Oh, I went up a little too high there. I'm gonna run out of room. So draw your letter Y. Right? Remember this from last time. Draw your branches. Okay. I want this one to be a Y shape too. Okay, now lightly draw circles around the ends of each of your branches. Sometimes your circles might overlap like that. That's okay. Okay, I got my circles. You know what's next. Detail brush. we're gonna do some thick to thin lines. So thick to thin. Oh. I'm gonna go really quick through this because this has already been a kind of long video. I'm running low on paint. Okay. There are my lines. Definitely not my best tree. And I accidentally, where I had erased that line, I accidentally went all the way up there. That's all right. It's part of my happy little tree now. Messy brush. Let's try it with this one this time so you can see. So this is the other messy brush I had. Okay. Get some paint, tap it off. Now those circles I drew, tap, 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 tap. Get more paint if you need it. Tap, 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 tap. Ooh. You guys think I'm gonna make it through this tree with the paint I have? Do you think I'm gonna run out? Right, am I done? No, I'm not done. I need to fill in the center. And look it, I have one branch that I did not cover because that's the one I messed up. That doesn't mean that I just get to skip it. So I gotta put in my leaves. Okay. Some more paint. And now we're filling in the middle. Tap, 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 tap. Okay. Always tapping. Okay, I don't want to go too far. My paint started to get a little thick here even. I like how this tree has a little more white than this tree does. There we are. There's my tree. So now, look at this paintbrush. I never, never, never want to leave a paintbrush like this, ever. So, to fix this paintbrush, because I've been tapping on it, if I leave it like this, it's going to be stuck like this forever. I take my water cup. Okay, I'll wash those paintbrushes in a second. Those are from one of my other demos. I'm going to take this. I wash it like I would normally wash it. Okay. Then, dry it a little bit on the edge. I take my paper towel. It's already a little better. I'm going to fold it over. And if it's more of a round brush, you're going to roll it. Otherwise, you're just going to kind of pat it together. Okay. Then take your fingers and brush its hair. Okay. Look, I got paint on my hands. It's because I didn't rinse out my brush well enough. I know that I need to wash this one in the sink. Okay. But I fixed his hair. That looks a whole lot better than it did before. He was still a messy brush, so still going to be messy, but that's okay. So make sure to always wash, rinse, and brush your brush's hair. And then they go bristle up in the cup, right? No bad hair days here. All right, go ahead, paint your trees. I'll see you for painting palm trees in painting trees number 5.